All right, everybody. This is Bernard Nomberg, and it is time for another episode, weekly episode of Conversations with Commodores. And it always holds a special place in my heart when we get another Alabama guy, an Alabama Commodore, in the house with us tonight. We've got Alvin AJ McGrew from right here in Birmingham. AJ, welcome to the show tonight. And I know you're going to make Bama proud as they all do. How's your evening going?
Hey, so far so good. So far so good. Thanks for having me, Bernard.
Absolutely. AJ is a Shades Valley Mountie. Were you guys Mounties?
Yeah, we were the Shades Valley Mounties.
That's right. Coming out of Birmingham, he came in with Coach Rod Dowhauer's class and ended up staying through the Woody years. And we're going to get to all of that. But before we go into the Wayback Machine, AJ, tell people about what's going on with you and your beautiful family and your life these days so folks can get caught up with the current version.
Yeah. Well, most definitely, most definitely. I have been married to my beautiful wife for the last 16 years since 2008. So yeah, we've been married 16 years.
You
We
better get
have
that right.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. We've got an 11-year-old son that we're bringing up. Aiden, he's a joy to us. He's a good kid. And the latest member of our family is a 3-month-old Siberian Husky puppy named Blue. So I'm covered in fur right now, and not a lot of sleep, but it's all good.
Oh,
Um,
that's so cool. That's
yeah,
so
so
great.
that's kind of what's going on in terms of professional life. Um, last summer, my brother, my sister-in-law, myself, and another partner, our administrator, we launched V Village, which is a luxury residential assisted living home. It was the first home that we opened back in October of last year. We're currently at full capacity. Things have really been picking up. We're about to gear up to open our second home in let's see, in early first week in August, and expect to start taking in residents in September, with plans for expansion across Northern Virginia area. So been busy, but everything has been moving in the right direction. It's something we're passionate about, and it is definitely a need. So that's kind of where we're at present day.
That I know that's not easy work, but you're right. It is definitely something that's needed, and we wish you the best because I know
Yeah.
you all are working very hard to make those dreams come true, which they are. Russell Nicole says, "What's up, AJ? Good to see you, brother." And
Oh man.
Lamont Turner screams "Grew" at you.
Hey, both of those are my guys. I think about them all the time. As a matter of fact, Russ, I think about Russ specifically being from Alabama. The guys that came in, and literally Bernard, I was looking for some old articles or just some old pictures, digging through things at my mom's house over the weekend, and I came across an article that said it was crazy to even say this now, but it said that blue chippers are being stolen from Alabama or something of that nature. And they had two pictures on this article. One of them was T. Martin, who everybody knows went on to the University of Tennessee, and they won the national championship. And after that to the NFL for some years. And the other picture was Zach Winkler, right? So Zach was one of the highest recruited players that was coming out during my time back in 95, 96. And it was crazy to go through, and I started reading the names of all the players from Alabama that were going to Vanderbilt.
Mhm.
And obviously, real close connection with all of them. I specifically used to ride home before I had a car. I used to ride home with Russ and Kyle Gullahorn. who Kyle was from Alabama, was from Hueytown, so right outside of Birmingham, as you know. And Kyle used to take us home. So we used to pass through Coleman and good times.
AJ, I have those same memories being from South Alabama, from Dothan. I used to
Yeah.
drop guys off in Tarrant,
Hmm.
in Hoover, and in Midfield. So I'm
Okay.
right there with you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except I had a little sedan, and the guys in the car were not very small, so it was a little close. I'm glad we were all friends back in the day. Oh, we
Understand it.
got JB, we got John Bradley in the house saying what's
What's
up.
up, JB?
AJ, let's talk about being recruited coming out of Shades Valley. You
Yeah.
came out of a good program, a solid that sends kids all over the SEC. Did you have thoughts of going to other programs? Were there any that were in being strongly considered before you decided upon Vanderbilt? Share a little bit about the recruiting
Yeah.
process in 95, 96.
Yeah, it was a different time period for us coming out of the state of Alabama back then, specifically because Alabama wasn't Nick Saban's Alabama
Mm-hmm.
per se. Although Alabama's always been a traditional, powerhouse, but nothing like what we've seen over the last 17 years or so. Alabama was on probation, and Alabama had like half of their scholarships taken. Auburn was going through some kind of deal at the time, so it was a lot of people that were going out of state. When I was digging through some of the storage bins at my mom's house, mom and dad's rather, they it's crazy that the letters that the contacts and all of the memorabilia, the vast majority, initially it was coming from South Carolina. So South Carolina was where I was initially. That was where I thought that I would end up deciding to go to Carolina. Vanderbilt started to pick up, and it was really after visiting Vanderbilt, and really what really sealed everything for me was going to watch Vanderbilt play Alabama back in 1995. Yeah, 95, because I was a senior in high school. And on the very first play of the game, Jermaine Johnson like jumps over the line and hauls it for like 75, 80 yards for a touchdown. And at that time, JJ was he was the fastest guy in the SEC. He's a 4.2 guy, track guy. And seeing that and just watching, how competitive and how, Vanderbilt was like, they were right there, in the fourth quarter to take the game. And Alabama ended up winning, but I attended that game. Kyle Gullahorn was there. I remember that, and really, we were really impressed being two Alabama guys. So, in terms of recruitment, I had some contact with several schools, but really the most interest I'd say was from South Carolina and Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out. Vanderbilt was, I couldn't have asked for a better place specifically for me.
Well, Russ said that Zach and he were also at that game, and OJ Fleming says to tell you hello.
Hey, what's up to all you guys? What's up, OJ?
Guys, we got a good
Russ?
one tonight. We got AJ McGrew here in town or on the show. He's from Birmingham. He's up in Virginia, and AJ, I want to talk about life in Birmingham. It's not, it's not a small town. It
Yeah.
certainly isn't. It's the largest metro area in the state of Alabama and puts out lots of good high school athletes in all sports every year. And playing on the squad that you did, you guys in the '90s put all kind of guys into the SEC and to other schools around the country. But your teammates, the guys who you graduated high school from, were they surprised that you went to Vanderbilt? Did they give you a hard time about it, or were they really proud for you for making that leap and coming up to Nashville?
Yeah, I think really, everybody on my team, was very supportive and happy to see me, go on to an SEC program that
Mhm.
also values the education piece and being a student athlete,
Mhm.
because everybody's not going pro, and even NFL stands for not for long anyway,
Yeah.
and so part of that, um, I, I'd attribute to my father was a professional baseball player, and he actually he was a first round draft pick. He went straight out of high school at 17 years old to the Cleveland Indians organization. I think he was either number 14 or 15 pick. And so the reason that I'm bringing this up is to kind of give you my perspective, or the perspective how we were brought up. My dad, he tore his rotator cuff, and really had a bum arm after that because they didn't have the technology. So he hung around for a few more years. But by the time that I was born, dad, he wasn't playing. He'd dropped baseball a couple years prior. And so we always grew up about, when I say we, my brother and myself, about the value of an education and how short term sports is. Sport, even if you're blessed to play, 10 years, which is outstanding in football, or if you have a long career with that, you still got to do something afterwards. And so that was always drilled in my head, growing up. So that was a factor that kept us, more focused.
It's not many of us who have parents who step through the same path ahead of us to be able to guide us. And I'm sure he was a great influence in those regards, the way you've just described. But for him to make it through the professional ranks and seeing from his own experience about being injured and not having that 10-year professional career, which we all athletes in their
Yeah.
sports want to do. Gosh, what a valuable lesson just right there, to take. And was it the Vanderbilt education that was the kind of the pushing point over the edge, so to speak, or was it just one of the parts of it? And before you answer,
Yeah.
we got Alfonso Harvey in the house and wants to send some love
What's
your
up,
way.
so?
I told you they'd be here for you tonight.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm humbled to have been a part of such a great group of guys.
Mhm.
Seriously, and that's whether I've talked to you yesterday or if it's been 20 years. The love is still there, and I think about you often, everyone. So
Well, was it the education factor? Was that kind of push you over the edge to come to
no,
Vanderbilt? Or is that just part of the bigger picture
that
there?
That I'd love to tell you that I had that kind of foresight at my age. That was just another component to it. It was more like, hey, that's a parachute for you,
Mhm.
which is probably not the right way to phrase it, but that's how I was thinking as a 17, 18-year old.
Sure.
Um, what really intrigued me, I will be honest, is two things. The first thing is the defense. Since I was a defensive player, the defense that they were running, Coach Woody and staff. I mean, they had that thing going, and it looked, Vanderbilt was right on the verge. From the outside looking in at that time. They were right on the verge of really doing some big things,
Mhm.
and so that was the first thing. The second thing is when I went up there, when I went on my visit, and I got a chance to meet some of the other guys on the team, and it just felt natural. From day one, it was like a natural fit. I could see myself there, and it was one other component that I have a cousin that we're the same age, and he's originally from Nashville, and he was going to school in Nashville, and so, I already had a built-in network of people and support structure around it. So, I mean, it was a no-brainer.
AJ, I anytime an athlete has a unique nickname, Crime Dog, there's always a story behind it.
Yeah.
And one of our Keystone cops, Billy Smith, just came on, says to tell you hello. I just checked with him, and I want you to know before you answer any further questions. Statute of limitations in state of Tennessee for anything you may or may not have done has expired. So, with that being said, where did the nickname Crime Dog come from?
Actually, it wasn't for an actual crime. It was as you recall the crime dog. What was it, McGruff or McGriff?
Well, you had Fred McGriff, but yes, it was McGruff.
McGruff, yeah, McGruff. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was kind of where that one came from.
Mhm.
But I'm sure they're good stories all around.
Well, I'm waiting for DC Crosby and Everett Robinson to share some of those stories. They've just popped in as
Oh, they
well.
know. What's up, DC? E Rob?
We got all kind of Commodores here in the house tonight for AJ McGrew. Now, AJ, you get up to campus in the fall of 96. Dowhauer is your coach, and you came in with a recruiting class that was pretty special.
Yeah.
I know you've named a few of those guys already, but who else was in your class that, or maybe who'd you room with? Who were you comparing notes with when you get there? Because, we're all big fish
Right.
growing up at home in our hometowns and our bubbles, our environments.
Yeah.
But when you get up into the SEC, D1 playing at Vanderbilt or wherever, you're now a small fish because
Yeah.
everybody's the same.
Right, right. Everybody that came in our class, I know them all. I can name them off by heart, because I have, I have a lot of love and respect for each and every one of them. It's just a bond, as I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. You came through Vanderbilt, it's a special bond to come through Vanderbilt. It's like being the David against the Goliaths of the SEC, because we have to go to class, we have to do some other things in other than just the sports.
Yeah.
So much respect for everybody. I will say I can kind of give you chronological order of how things went. Obviously I knew Kyle, and I got a chance to meet Zach and Russ, being from Alabama. Once when I left for school, I think, within a week, I think within 1 week of graduating, I was off to Vanderbilt. And the very next person that came, maybe like a week or two later, within 2 weeks of that, me getting there, was the first other member of our class that was coming from out of town, which was Tavares Hogan's. And so Tavares and I, we're the first guys on campus. I had already met, to backtrack, I think I met pretty much everybody. It was almost our whole class, I think, if not all, was at the spring game. So I'd had a chance for, initial
Oh,
introductions
yeah,
and that kind
because guys, if you think about this, this is 96. This is
yeah,
way before iPhones and the internet had taken
yeah.
hold of things, and it was the
Oh yeah,
old
yeah.
school way of
Old
communicating.
school. Yeah.
Tavares was on the show a couple of years ago. He's over in
Yeah.
Jacksonville doing his thing.
I
I
remember.
didn't
I talked
realize
to him earlier today.
I didn't appreciate you guys were in the same class.
Yeah, yeah. Tavares and I came in the same class. And a funny thing is with him, Tavares being from Florida
Mhm.
and me coming from Alabama back in the early 90s, there were some good battles between University of Alabama and the Florida Gators.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, I kind of felt that for whatever reason, I felt that, okay, this guy can't tell me anything, because I know how we do it in Bama per se, and so he's coming from Florida. My keep in mind, my worldview was no further than the city of Birmingham. So I'm thinking
That's
like
right.
Alabama football, that's it. And even at the high school level. And so he's coming from Florida, and Florida guys have their own swagger. And he and so for whatever reason, I thought that I was faster than him. I thought I could outrun him, even though I played linebacker. And and he would laugh. He's like, "Man, you cannot outrace me." And so fast forward to running the 40-yard dash. I'm running like at a high school clock. I'm thinking I'm running a 4.5. Get on that real clock for the when they brought the pro scouts out that were timing guys, even if you were underclassmen, if you wanted to run, right?
Right.
And I get like 4.78, something like that. Tavares runs a 4.37. And so I never gave him any more jawing about that. But that's a story that stands out. He and I we laugh about that to this day. After that, Lamont, I had met Lamont Turner, who, Lamont is, Lamont's brother to me. Lamont's like my brother, is my brother. And not that all my other teammates aren't. But we got a real special relationship. Lamont is originally, as you know, he's originally from Franklin, so right outside of Nashville. And so I met Lamont. I met him at the spring game first, but then got a chance to hang with him. He came up to see me, and we ended up being roommates. Our first year, so we roomed together, and we hit it off. And at the end of the year, it came time to figure out, hey, what are we gonna do next year? And so I was like, hey, I'm good with it if you're good with it, right? Not want to say, hey man, will you room with me again? And so we roomed together again. I live with me and Lamont lived together pretty much all of my Vanderbilt, all the time I was at Vanderbilt, except for my very last year. So we got a close relationship to this day. I talk to him like all
All
the
right,
time.
AJ, I gotta ask, who picked up whose Southern drawl the most? Did you talk more like Lamont, or did he talk more like you, or was it pretty close? You
Uh,
don't have to answer that. uh,
oh
oh,
man. Yeah.
we got Ed Parrish is in the house. Jarrell Jackson, Tyler Unziger, Reggie Washington, Hunter
Oh man.
McGrew. Man, we got them all in the house for you
Yeah,
tonight.
we got a good crew. Good crew.
We could almost put together a full team so far. That's how many have shown up for you tonight.
Oh man, hey, well, I'm glad that everybody's in the house. These are all special people, real special people and real special relationships that I have and have had.
AJ, when you get to campus, had either Woody or Dowhauer talked to you about whether you would redshirt or whether they had plans for you that first fall that you got
Yeah.
to campus? Was that already been talked about before you got to campus, or did it take place after you showed up?
That was after camp.
Mhm.
And the story of that, Coach Norman Parker, the great, the late great Norm Parker. Loved this dude to death. He was our linebacker coach when I first came on board, and then he transitioned over to become our defensive coordinator. But at the time, Coach Parker went up to the meeting room, to the front of the room, to the chalkboard, and he drew a dotted line in the middle. And Coach Parker said, "All right." He put names above that line,
Mhm.
and then he put names below that line. And he said, okay. And I think Lamont, he didn't redshirt. Lamont wasn't redshirt. He's like, Lamont here. And he looked over, he said, uh, Jason Smith, they called him Smitty. And he was a linebacker, came in with us. He's like, Smitty, I see you here. McGrew, I see you here below the line. We're both below the line. That means that we're being redshirted. And he said, and this is good. This is good. You just need to go down to the scout team and let them kick the shit out of you on a daily basis, and you're gonna be good and be ready for next year. And so that was how the red shirting came
That's
about.
how you found out in front of the whole group.
That's how we found out. He drew
Wow.
that dotted line. Love Parker.
Every coach has his own way of communication,
Yeah,
but that's pretty unique how you find out.
yeah.
If you now, were you disappointed? Were you okay with it? Did it take some adjustment? How did you deal with that?
Um, yeah, I wanted to play, but just because you're used to playing, right? Not playing, I was disappointed, but I understood that. I understood, or at least I thought I understood, until going out there for that first game. The atmosphere was insane. We
Mm.
played Notre Dame at home, a sellout, and the vast majority it was like all Vanderbilt. Notre Dame had some fans, but this was black and gold, so this thing was
Was
rocking.
that the TV game that Todd Yoder caught the big touchdown pass?
That's the one. That's the one. That's the one.
Mhm.
And so the electricity coming out of the locker room, I in my mind, I thought I was good. I was like, okay, red shirting, hey, getting in the gym, strength and
Mhm.
conditioning, we'll be ready for the next year. But just going out there, I wanted to play, and I think that any player is gonna want to play. But it wasn't the end of the world. I totally understood, and I had a group of fellow red shirts that year that we formed the Hell Squad. That's what we called ourselves. And
Russ said y'all beat the hell out of the first team on offense the whole year.
we get after them. We used to
Mhm.
get after them. The Hell Squad was okay. The Hell
Now,
Squad was okay.
remember earlier when I talked about the statute of limitations?
Yeah,
That was for crimes that may or may not have been committed.
right.
It's for property damage that may or may not have occurred,
Yeah,
those kind of things.
yeah,
Truth time.
yeah.
Did you and Reggie Washington produce hole or holes in some wall based on
Yeah,
some
we
event?
did.
May or may not
Absolutely.
have happened.
Absolutely, we did that. We did that. We definitely did that. And a funny thing, I was talking with my cousin. Let me tell you how small the world it is. My cousin, she's just a couple years younger than me, and she lives in Birmingham now. Um, Her son plays youth soccer,
Mhm.
and so one day I get a call from her phone, and I answer, and I'm like, "Hey, Jasmine, what's up?" And I see a, a face appear, and she's standing with Reggie Washington, right? And so Reggie's son was on the same team, and Reggie was coaching that team. So after that, so now I'm giving you my cousin knows who Reggie is. So I happened to be talking to my cousin last Wednesday or Thursday, and Reggie's name came up for whatever reason. I was telling her about, we always rehash the story about when me and him put that hole in the wall. And speaking of Reg, I saw a message the other day about Reggie, and I reached out. I called him, and me and him we talked on Saturday. And during the course of the conversation, we went over number one, want to find out that everything. Let me know everything's good, and you okay, and your family, everybody's good. And after that, we discussed the hole in the wall because
I'm not telling you who said that it was in Chafin 215, but
yes,
that
sir.
might have been the room.
Yeah, it was, and Reggie's a big, strong dude. The thing is, I tried to grab Reggie, and Reggie didn't go anywhere. He didn't budge, And I was like, oh man, I might have overplayed my hand with this. But
you,
yeah,
you
yeah,
you
yeah,
probably need to have thought this through
yeah,
before you acted upon it. But
right,
AJ, you learn that you're being redshirted, and that's a transition because beforehand, the prior season, you're a big man on campus. You're making all these plays. You're getting all the recognition, but now you're part of a group of guys who have been asked to develop in the season.
yeah,
You don't get to play. Maybe you dress out. I don't know how that transpired,
yeah. We dressed
but
out,
you're helping the number ones get ready for the next game.
right?
And that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of guys because we all come in with that confidence of an athlete. We all come in with that pride that, hey, I've got all these awards and things, and I'm bringing it to the, I want to show what I can do. And it's a little bit of humbling when a
Yeah.
coach says, you're not quite there. We
Right.
need you to do X, or, get stronger, maybe put on whatever it is. And the best of players adapt and do, but
Hmm.
some players get up all in their feelings, and
Right.
it creates a roadblock. Or, and today, I'm not even going to go about today, they'll just quit and go to another team. But
Yeah. Oh, man.
how did you come to grips with realizing, after Coach Parker told you publicly, you're not going to be on the field this year, we need some development out of you, we need some adjustment, those kind of things? Did it
Yeah.
take you long to figure out what you needed to do? Was there kind of a down period of adjustment? Take us through that, because everybody does it a little different.
Well, actually, during the season, I just kind of turned the page and really bought in and was trying to get stronger and bulk up. And I really enjoyed. I enjoyed going to practice as a freshman, because the Hell Squad, the guys that were on there, like Russ and Jason Smith and Ryan Alds, and the list goes on and on. And I mean, we all came in together, and so we were all boys. So
Mhm.
yeah, I love getting out there. We compete. Um, Down the road later that year, during the spring of that year, I
Mhm.
injured my shoulder, or either if it wasn't the spring, it was during at the beginning of the summer workouts, and I
Mhm.
injured my shoulder, and it was something that that was lingering, and it was affecting me, and then that was tough. That was tough. Like when you're trying to, you want to go out there and perform at a high level, but the pain is kind of limiting you, or maybe at that time, in retrospect, maybe I hadn't learned how to push through that, whatever the case may be. But that was kind of things kind of slid for a little while with that.
Well, sure. We all have that, whether it's quiet confidence or outward confidence, depending on our
Yeah,
personality. As an athlete, you want to compete. You want to be number one. You want to. If you're not number one on the depth chart, you're trying to inch your way up there. And sure, injuries are all part of it. I certainly can sympathize with that. But that part is the part that's out of your control until you get that help back. But
right.
during that redshirt year, AJ, from an academic standpoint, from a social standpoint, how did you acclimate? Was it a easy transitions for you, or was it took a little bit of time, and maybe you're glad you redshirted and to help with
Yeah.
those parts of campus life?
I think in retrospect, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise
Mhm.
to um, kind of get acclimated into the workload from an academic standpoint, as well as kind of getting my feet set socially. Um, I think it worked out for the best.
Mhm. Well, it is. It can be a year of growth, or it
Yeah.
could be a wasted year, just depending on how each
Right.
individual approaches that. But once you got your shoulder back into shape, take us now forward. What
Yeah.
position are you competing? Who were some of the guys that were in your position group that were kind of they were your buddies, but they were also your competition?
When so when I hurt my shoulder, the going into my sophomore, what would have been redshirt freshman year,
Mhm.
um, and so I was hurt, and that wasn't healed up, and we brought in a class of some great linebackers. Everybody. Number one, I have to say this: the depth and the talent that was in that linebacker room, that was a great group. Everybody that was in there, including walk-on players, were would get after it. So it was a lot of competition, which was really cool. We brought in, let's see, we brought in Matt Stewart, Nate Morrow, and Jamie Winborn, and all those guys, obviously, great players. But out of all of them, I have to say that Wimborne. I remember watching, Coach Parker called me, Lamont, and Jason Smith. We were the linebackers from our class, and we were freshmen. He put on Jamie's tape, his game tape. It wasn't even a highlight tape. I think this is just a game tape, and he played the first 2 or 3 plays. And on I think the first play, I see a quarterback running an option. Jamie flies in like a missile. The guy's helmet goes this way, the ball's going that way, and I'm like, we got to have this dude. And we all knew.
You're talking about some Wetumpka High School highlights.
Yeah. With Tumpka,
Another Alabama guy.
yeah, all day long, all day long. So,
Well, AJ, there's a reason why he ended up playing on Sundays.
oh, it's no doubt. It's no doubt about it. When I first saw his highlight, well, not even highlight, his game tape. This was
Yeah,
actual game tape. You
yeah.
just watched the guy play, and
Mm,
I had no doubt that what kind of player he was, and specifically, we knew that, hey, guys are coming in. It's not going to be a spot for everybody, but we need the most talent that we can get. We want to win, and let competition play out, the cream rise to the top.
mhm.
So yeah, that was kind of the situation. My whole year was basically like a wash. So coming off of being redshirted, I was okay with, but then injured a lot of my sophomore year, or going redshirt freshman year. I played some special teams, but didn't do much. So I was really looking forward to coming back for the next season, right? So going into redshirt sophomore junior year, and I got operated on a couple times, and they finally did a procedure that made me get close to 100%, or 100% rather. And coming back, I had a really good spring, and really was starting to feel, the game was starting to slow down, and was feeling better. And then over the summer, I even was able to strengthen that shoulder more, and even gain some weight that I had lost. And I was primed to be in the rotation. And I did a knucklehead thing. I got in some trouble right during camp, and got suspended for the entire season. And that was just a life lesson, consequences that I'm thankful, very thankful that the consequences were no worse. And they were. Coach Woody, got the most respect and love for him. Coach Woody could have slam dunked me. He could have sent me packing. He didn't do that. He worked with me, and let me. He knew how much I needed to be a part of the team. Whether apart from football, just needed to be in the environment, and work through whatever I was working through, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's kind of how that went.
Well, it's during those, we're 18 to about 22, 23
Yeah,
years of age. And we all come into college at different levels of maturity, different levels of expectations, and the like. And it takes some intuition by the coaching staff to not treat all the players the same, because everybody's personalities are different.
exactly,
And the best of coaches may not win all of the games. The best
right,
of coaches to me are the ones who take care of their players,
no
whether
doubt,
it's on the field or off the field. And it sounded like Coach Woody and maybe
yeah,
others were there for you when you needed that as well.
no
But
doubt about it.
AJ, that's whether we screw up in college or we're straight and narrow, whatever it may be in those years, it all forms our life lessons, our experiences, and it shapes us how we later deal with stuff later in life. And I'm sure
Yeah,
you've learned lessons, which you've already explained a little bit, but I want to keep coming forward. I want you to keep telling us your Vanderbilt story. But as part of that, and I'm sorry to be for so long-winded, but a lot of athletes in college, and we'll stick with Vanderbilt for this, a lot of athletes stay in that athletic, what I call the McGugan bubble.
Yeah.
From a social standpoint or whatever it is, they only hang around athletes. They're more comfortable that way. They don't have to deal with social stuff. And that's fine. And I'm not criticizing those who do. That's just their experience.
Right.
Then, AJ, you have others who get out into the campus and they network and they meet non athletes and they develop a bunch of friendships that way. And
Yeah.
again, not a criticism either way that you go. Can you kind of share with us a little bit about your experience away from football?
Yeah.
Did you mainly hang out with just ball players or athletes, whether it's other sports, or did you find yourself in the community or the campus at large and kind of get involved in that kind of things?
Well, just due to the fact of you spend so much time with your teammates because you live with them and all that. So the majority of my time was with my teammates, and that's just
Sure,
how it was all set up.
sure.
But when I say that, I had plenty of friends and people that were outside of football that that were friends of mine, and not only my friends, but friends of my teammates, and so we had a big group. So it was just a big group of whoever's knocking at the door, and come play some PlayStation, or
Mhm.
we'd have people coming in and out, and for example, when we lived at Chafin, we had people coming in and out of there, and it was a lot of them, plenty of them weren't athletes,
Mhm.
and so just friends.
Did you have at Chafin or anywhere you lived, did y'all have any what I'll call designated quiet places where you could study, or did you have to go to off, maybe to libraries or to McGugan to study?
Well, you had to be extremely focused, or you'd have to get out of there and go to the library, or find a quiet space.
Oh, sure.
Um, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of times for studying, we do a lot of studying at the mandatory study hall, which
Mhm.
is one of the great things about Vanderbilt. The way I feel is, especially as a parent now, Vanderbilt really, during my time, Vanderbilt was going to make sure that you have the support and the structure and the infrastructure to go to class, to learn the material, to graduate if you need help with a tutor, whatever. So we spent plenty of time in the study hall, mandatory, um, and that was a really helpful place as
Well,
well.
you kind of led me where I was going with this about priorities.
Yeah,
Because if you don't learn those priorities about when to get your rest, when to study, when to do this, when to do that, it's hard to stick around because you're going to wash
yeah,
yourself out of the program.
right.
So, my question, when did you become comfortable with football, not having to just think, but just to do, to react? And when did you become comfortable from an academic or a social standpoint?
Um, I would say they're both around the same time. I would say as I was going into my academic junior year, which would have been my redshirt sophomore year.
So
By
your
then,
third
I
year on
was,
campus.
yeah, I had rehabbed, and I was feeling better from a football standpoint, and learning what we were doing better, and also from a social standpoint, as well as from an academic standpoint. So you know
Well, I was going to say everybody kind of finds their footing at different times.
yeah,
It's and some never find their footing
right,
with
right,
one or the other. Guys, I've
yeah,
got Alvin AJ McGrew. He's in Virginia these days, but he's originally from Birmingham. He played in the late '90s for Coach Dahauer and then for Coach Woody. We got C Hall in the house. Hey, Carlton, good to see you, bud. Hope all is
chili.
well in the world. We got Dwayne Jones. Hey, Dwayne. Um, they were very different men from a personality standpoint. I
Yeah,
understand very different philosophies. I know you only had the 1 year with Coach Dowhauer, but and you had
Yeah.
Coach Woody after. But you had Coach Woody the whole time, wasn't he? The DC your freshman year.
Yeah, yeah. Woody was the DC yeah, from the moment that I walked in the door. So I was attracted to Vanderbilt. One of the main features was the fact that that defense was being led up by Woody Wittenhofer. So
And did you know of his time with the Steelers and all of the Super Bowls and all that good stuff?
yeah, I learned about it. I learned about it. Once I started having contact and communication with
I didn't know if he was the kind that would wear his rings all around and show everybody. Everybody I
Coach,
guess
Coach,
everybody
Coach would do
locally,
that. Yeah, yeah,
everybody locally knew who he was,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
he probably put those on for recruiting purposes.
Oh
That's for
yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Well, AJ, take us toward the end of your time on
Yeah.
campus and that transition. When we
Mhm.
come out of the football world and we graduate or we leave campus or we find other things to do, whatever our path takes us, at
Yeah,
some point we're no longer playing for the team. At some
right.
point, you're no longer under the regiment of practice and lift and film and all
Yeah,
of that. Now, the guys on the team, they'll be your teammates for life. And I know you've
right.
already shared a little bit of that, but
Yeah,
you come out of all of that regiment, and now you've got to figure out what's next. How did you take yourself through that, and where did it take you after your Vanderbilt years?
yeah. That was definitely a transition period from um going from an athlete in it's one of those things that I didn't realize how much that how big a part of that played in my life, and really what how big of a part of your identity
Mhm.
that is. So it's kind of like trying to
Yeah,
figure out, all right, what I'm hearing this about this job that I'm interviewing for, but I kind of like the locker room a little bit better. But so it took some it took a little time to kind of figure that out. um one thing I will say, I quit working out completely for a year, which is crazy to think about now.
yeah,
And it really, the reason I bring this up is because working out, that was such a regimented part of provide
sure,
structure.
sure.
I'm somebody, I've always been a high energy guy, that I need to get some of that energy out in a positive way. So I stopped working out for a year.
Now,
And
did you shrink in size or did you blow up in weight?
no, I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of weight. My last year, the year after I came back from that suspension, I was kind of checked out. I was checked out with football. Unfortunately, that's just where I was at. And I didn't put it in terms of the cutting back on the calories and the extra workouts and all that kind of stuff. So I had blown up a little bit, and
Wait, as
so
Robert Davis used to say, he went from toting the rock to a three technique real quick.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was living that my last year. I looked more like a nose guard than like a linebacker, like from the previous 12 months. And
Uh-huh.
so once I stopped playing, I try to I guess modify my diet a little bit, but I stopped working out. And what I did not realize is one day I was visiting my guy Lamont, and when he was in Cincinnati, and I got up to walk, and I went down immediately, sciatica. And sciatica, it was pinching a nerve in my back. And I went to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor did the adjustments and explained to me that I stopped doing the exercises that would keep my core, my
Mhm,
abdominals, and my
mhm,
glutes, that would keep my pelvis
mhm,
in proper position, keep my pelvis from tilting. And my
mhm.
pelvis had tilted and was pinching on that sciatic nerve. And so I started back, working out, and ended up ramping back up, to just trying to get a morning workout in, just like back in college. not to perhaps not to that intensity level, but the best I could do as a civilian, so to say. So I got back in that, definitely, because I did not want that to happen again. And so I stuck with that routine, and I've stuck with that, the morning workouts, for the last 20 something years,
Good for
and
you.
it's crazy because, like, if I don't get it in, I feel like something's off. And
Well,
so it kept me focused and disciplined.
AJ, in your advanced age now that you're in your mid 40s,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's a routine look like for you from a workout standpoint? I know you're very busy with the villages, but when
Yeah.
you do, is it, and this is my question, is it a lifestyle thing, meaning it's on your calendar, you know you're going to work out, that's a priority for the day,
Yeah.
everything else will fall in place?
Yeah.
Or,
It's
and I don't
yeah.
think this is the case, oh, I'll get to it, I'll work out at some point today. It doesn't sound like that's your
Yeah.
MO. So
Right.
tell us a little bit of what's a workout look like for you.
Trying to compare it to when we were at Vanderbilt, it's going to be
You
nothing,
can't.
nothing
See,
less.
that's not fair.
Just to
You
get it,
go
just to
what?
get it. Yeah, just to get a good burn, something that, get you a good pump.
Mhm,
Do some cardio. Um, do some ab work.
mhm.
I'm not competing for any Mr. Olympus contest, but it's not about how, from an aesthetic standpoint for me. It's just it makes me feel good, and it makes me feel like I've gotten something big out of the way in the morning, and the rest of the day is downhill. I know that that's kind of been my mentality, and it is a lifestyle. I'll tell you, a couple years ago, we were in Europe. We were on a cruise, and it was a really nice gym in the cruise. So no matter what we were doing the night before, I was still in there. I was in there on the cruise, and I felt great, for the rest of the day. So it's more a lifestyle.
And when you don't get to do that workout, do you feel sluggish through the day?
I do feel more sluggish during the day, and I feel, like I said, I feel off. So I try
It,
to get in,
it's it's
just
so true. It really, I think it's so important for former competitive athletes, regardless of your sport, as you go through life, you got to move your body. And I don't
yeah,
mean to make this into an infomercial of me on my soapbox, but as
no,
I'm getting older, I try to move my body every day. I try to stretch every day. I may not have the greatest of diets, but I'm trying. But you're so right. It's easy to not stay disciplined.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if you create that lifestyle, which I'm so proud for you to do that as well, I think that makes a lot of difference. But let's get
yeah,
back. We've got a couple more minutes, AJ, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us tonight.
yeah,
It's been a fantastic conversation. So much love in the comments, all these teammates showing up. And that's where I want to go next. I want to talk about the importance, or I want you to talk about the importance of team sports and having teammates, brothers in arms, back
yeah,
then and
yeah.
even now. What's it meant to you?
It means the world to me. Everything that I am, everything I will be is a product of the experiences that I've had. The best friendships, the closest relationships I've ever had and ever will have, came out of that locker room. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And that's for everybody that I ever crossed paths with in the locker room. Even, obviously you always are going to have cliques within the clique, right? And so it's going to be guys that pockets that gravitate and spend more time, and all you guys know who you are, and you know the stories, and if flies on the wall could talk. But it's really it. I remember something profound that Coach Norm Parker said, and I reference this all the time. In one of our meetings when I think he was defense coordinator, he looked around, he was like, guys, listen, 30 years from now, you'll be lucky if you can remember a third of the games. The thing that you're going to remember is whether the guy next to you, whether he was a good guy or not. And I'd be damned if that's not the truth, because it was a blessing. It is a blessing to have been surrounded by such great guys. Everybody in their own right, high character guys, persistent guys that knew how to brush themselves off and pick themselves up. just really, really, I couldn't have asked to have been surrounded by a more impressive group of guys, and they kept me in line, so.
And I'm sure you've kept them in line just as well. Now, everybody has group texts.
Mhm.
Most of those group texts with your teammates have got a name to the group text.
Yeah.
Has your crew got a name to your group text?
Well, I don't think we have a specific name. It's more like class, 96. It's more
Mhm.
like 96. And the guys that I have talked to the most would be, obviously Lamont and Ainsley, being defensive guys
Mhm.
that came in 96 as well. Tavares, Remente. I've talked to Bo. I hadn't talked to Bo in a while, not intentionally, just life stars life, and I gotta reach out to Bo because Bo's always been my guy. Andre, Ryan Alds, you know, in terms of on the phone, I got love obviously for Zoe, Matoya, Rodney Williams, DC, and many of these guys that I haven't talked to in a while, and love all these dudes. And if I'm leaving off anybody, that's not intentional. You guys just don't. It's not enough time for me to go through a list of 50.
Did I hear you say that it's about time for Ainsley to host everybody in Vegas? Did
Oh
I
man, yeah,
hear?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That he's tried to get us out there. And I definitely need to get out there. Last year, we were just opening our first home
Mhm.
the following month. So we were just opening and getting ready to bring in residents, and I couldn't get away out there
Oh,
to
for
the UNLV game.
the
And
Vegas
and I'm
game.
glad I didn't, because I would have been mad, mad, mad after we lost that the way we lost it. But yeah, yeah, Ainsley's been trying to get everybody out there.
Ansley's with us now. He says, "Go on."
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. This guy, I remember. What's crazy? 20 years ago from May, I think, yeah, from May of 2004, that was the first time I ever went out to Vegas, and I went with several of my old teammates, and Barnett, Jeff Barnett was out there, came out there, linked up with us, Ryan Alls, Ainsley, Lamont, Tavares, Bo, Remente, Andre Woods, and Ainsley Battles. True story. Ainsley Battles stood up on the plane all the way from Nashville till we got to Vegas, you know, stood up on the plane and it was comfortable. We were hyped up to go. So
Oh,
he
that's
joined us at
good.
the
That's
right time.
good. Barnett will be on the show in 2 weeks, so
Really, really.
you'll have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
come back
Jeff,
in.
yeah, Barnes a good dude. I hadn't seen Jeff in forever. But I got a lot of love for Jeff. I could Deuce Reader, Billy Miller, oh my God, Joel Robb, Matt Hill, the list goes on and on. Everybody that came in with us, Yoder, Saltzman, um, the
Mm,
whole class.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. AJ, thank you, my friend. This is. I could keep you here for another hour, but I want to be
Hey,
respectful of
hey, the
your
time flew by. I
time.
really appreciate you having me, and I appreciate everybody that tuned in, and thanks for the love. I love all you all, and VU for life.
That's right. Anchor down.
Take it down.
Y'all have a good night.
Hey, you too.